Welcome to another video, A Walk with Phil, and today I'm in West Bromwich. I tell you what, it's been a while since I've been up to West Bromwich, and so what I thought I'd do is come and have a look at Carter's Green, see how it's faring these days. Well, I did a video of Carter's Green a while back, and on that video I came up here on a Sunday morning in my attempt to see if I can buy a Sunday newspaper. And I didn't have any luck because I couldn't find a newsagents to buy one. There was nowhere, in fact, that sold a Sunday newspaper. And that just showed you the sign of the times, how things have actually changed here in Carter's Green. So many alien shops now have taken up residence in Carter's Green. I will say, of course, that at least there is some life in this particular area. But nevertheless, Carter's Green would have lots of pubs and a thriving retail area. And I remember coming off the bus, the 74 back in the 70s, and there was almost three butchers all in a row. Now there's not even one butcher there left in Carter's Green now. And so, you know, so many changes. But are the changes for the better? But anyway, that's up to you to decide. What I'm going to do is just have a quick look around Carter's Green today, and let's go and have a look and see what we can see. I'll just start our little wander down Carter's Green from this point here, which is Shaftesbury Street just ahead, and on the corner here we can see this large building called the Shaftesbury Casino. It's just undergone a little bit of renovation. It's in this kind of a copper coloured now, all kind of copper coloured, brown, bronze. But on the corner of Shaftesbury Street once stood George Mason. When this one closed down, they moved down towards down into Carter's Green, and there was another one, further one up the High Street, in the middle part of the High Street, where it was once a very busy, thriving retail area, but today the decline has set in, and the decline set in a long time ago here in Carter's Green. Carter's Green doesn't officially begin here, it begins where we get to the Marksman a little bit further on. Well, it used to be the Marksman, wasn't it? But George Mason was like a convenience store. It had you sell meat and cheese, it had like a deli counter and all the stuff in there. But my nan used to work at George Mason at the one at the top end in the High Street. She worked there for a time, and George Mason was quite a popular place. It was always well staffed. But Frank Guest came along and purchased the George Mason, the court, and turned it into offices. And then the frontage here of Ford Guest was where the new Ford cars were. And over here, where we got Lidl, once stood the Ford Guest car lot, where they used to sell all the used cars on there. And the main entrance just down on the left would have been to Jensen Motors, who had premises there originally before moving to Kelvin Way. But sadly, you know, Carter's Green has declined to the point where it really is rather a dismal place. But don't let me put you off. If you want to come to Carter's Green, come to Carter's Green, but there's nothing here anymore in so much as where retail is concerned. We used to have a variety of shops, and I'll show you what I mean when we get a bit further down. We got one of the great survivors of the pubs in this area, the Wheat Chief, Holden's pub. Been there since around the 1870s. That's the Wheat Chief, and next to Wheat Chief once stood a barbers called Clive Basford. Now, Clive Basford, as many of you know, was a world hairdressing champion. Just speaking to John Willits, a person who lives here around Carter's Green. and he's himself just talking to me about all the changes that have occurred around these parts. But I just want to show you over here. We got Decaron, and just to the right there, that was a pub called the Oddfellows Arms, closed in around 2009, and it was taken over, as you can see, by Decaron, the specialist decorating store, and another one great survivor of Carter's Green, or this particular part of the high street. And also we do have a florist, Billingham's Florist, and next door we've got another hair, beauty and nails bar. We got a lot of those around here, and that used to be Cameron Estate Agents, if I remember rightly. And we've got that majestic tower clock, the beacon of hope at the bottom of Carter's Green, built in 1897. And it commemorates Reuben Farley, who was 5 times mayor of the town. Delero Barbers. Got a tiny little Caribbean store there. The old hot pole, been there since the late 1800s, the old hot pole, reputedly haunted. But that's the second pub here in Carter's Green that is still trading. This was a pub once, of course, just like the Oddfellows Arms. This was the Marksman. But there was a pub on this site since around 1644, when records mentioned a pub being here. But it was in 1973 when its name changed to the Marksman. And then around 2009, had a small conversion where they had a restaurant at the end. But in around, I don't know, was it around 2014, something like that, when the Marksman finally closed. But it has been rebuilt. Well, it had been demolished many years ago in the early 1900s, and then it was rebuilt to what it looks like today. But I'm just going to take you down here in John Street. John Street is just off the Carter's Green, as you can see. We got Guns Lane just ahead there. And this is the beginning of Carter's Green just here. This is number 1 Carter's Green, is this ex-pub, the Marksman. And it was originally called the Cross Guns. And here, look, see this small building here? That used to be the lavatories there. Public convenience there. Still standing, but it looks as though it's some kind of outhouse now. But John Street here would veer to the left now. And this was a kind of passageway that would lead you to Ford Guests through here, but it's walled off up there now. And John Street is desolate now, completely devoid of what once was here, which was houses. We're all this car parking here, but nobody parks on because it's just too remote, it's just too cut off. But there was all terrace properties all along John Street, and John Street would carry on, look, through all this metal fencing there. It would continue to join Garrett Street much further on. And if you went through that, if you went through there, now we've got the expressway that dissects the John Street. John Street still continues further on, where they used to have the Hills and Robinson ironworks up there. And here, more or less here, I mentioned this in a previous video when I did a film about Jensen Motors, because Jensen Motors was all over the back beyond those metal railings there that you can see. That was Jensen Motors, and it would stretch right across where the expressway is. This was the main entrance, one of the main entrances where vehicles would be on transporters. They would come out of here because Jensen made a lot of commercial vehicles, lorries and such like, and vans, and they would be transported from that exit road there. Now I just want to go a little bit further along here in John Street. As I said, look, you can see where John Street would have continued. Now to the left here we have Winkle Street. Now Winkle Street again, where houses would be on both sides of Winkle Street, and this is still recognised as Winkle Street, and it's a bit slippy underfoot this morning, a bit bitter. And we're at the back of rear of some of the shops that line Carter's Green. Along here, look, you can see we've got a arrow pointing to a food store. And now we've come to the end of Winkle Street. Look, it doesn't go very far. We've come to a small factory unit here, like upholstery or denimwear, clothing manufacturers. And Winkle Street would continue to another road which would cross here and join John Street, and that was once called Tyndall Street. Tyndall Street, if we went through here, through that wall there, you would be joining you would find the expressway in the way, but that's where a pub used to be called the Plumber's Arms, and the Plumber's Arms disappeared in the 1960s. And I just wanted to also add that when you went along John Street here ahead of me, and you would continue where we would join Garrett Street, where the expressway, you can see the cars, all the vehicles now moving across that expressway. Well, there used to be a pub along there as well in John Street called the Prince of Wales. So what we'll do now is head out of John Street. But look at this car park here, eh? As I said, it was houses would align all along here, but look at it now. It's just desolate, it's barren. And as I said, the car park was built, look, in its place where all the houses were. Disabled spots, and there's a cash machine there, and nobody ever uses it. And you can understand why. You'd feel a little unsafe leaving your car here, I'd have thought, but if you want to park here in the middle of nowhere for an hour, you have to pay £1.20. Here's a better view of the rear of the Marksman as it once was, with its little bit of car parking at the rear. Look. Okay, that's where we've just come from, John Street. And there's the front view of what once was the Marksman. Now this is Guns Lane, and we got Stokes opticians that occupy some of this building. It's such a large building, isn't it? And I always used to think it must have been some kind of hotel. It was only recently that I discovered that it was something like that. It was the Beehive Hostelry that would offer bed and breakfast accommodation, way back when. And there was also there were also caterers, and you can just see there on the front of the building, look, see the beehive, which serves as a reminder that it used to be the Beehive Hostelry. And I think some years ago, many of you would remember it being a greengrocer's. I think it was a greengrocer's anyway. Now here we got the a Sikh temple, is it? But this once used to be a petrol garage here. Several garages used to be over on this site relating to cars, but you can see down there, look, it's got the Britannia Carpet Warehouse now. These old metal gates here. There used to be a garage of some sort, car garage, and on this side here was a petrol garage. Just here on my right We can't really get a very good view now as to what used to be over on this side. We've got something called Land Auto. Auto's another car lot over here. Like I said many a time, you know, I never really see anybody looking around second-hand cars. But on this site, up till 1970, once stood George Waring's, the iron foundry. They were around these parts, but there's been a lot of new houses built just ahead to the left. But Guns Lane is named after the fact that there was a lot of gun manufacturing around these parts. But nothing very recently. Must have been a long time ago, maybe in the late 1700s, early 1800s. But that used to be the tax office, and then it was used by the National Health Service. But that is all going to be turned into apartments, so it's just going to be one huge residential block over there. And if you get a little bit further back than that was the Social Security office, and that's all been turned into apartments as well. So this is the way it's all going, isn't it? All along the high street of West Bromwich and Carter's Green as well, it's all residential. A lot of homes of shared occupation as well, there's a lot of those going on. And if I was to just show you here now, as we proceed along Carter's Green, I mean, look at all these shuttered shops. I know that some of them do open in the evenings, but it's just the general view in the daytime. When you look, it appears so dystopian, so kind of run down, if you like. But there's one and only fish shop, the Carter's Green Fish Bar, very popular. Indian takeaway. I don't know, what is that, a Jamaican takeaway, that cuisine? I'm not sure if that opens in the evening. There's an estate agents there, that appears to have closed down. There's a Polish shop here that's closed down. We are here on a Wednesday morning, and this is one of many shops that tend to survive around the high street. Vape shops, nail bars, barbers. Shops that of course were alien to many of us who lived around these parts, 60s, 70s and 80s, but they're all proliferating around here now. So we've got vapes and tobacco here, we've got vapes at this one here, which is very brightly lit at night. This is a do-it-yourself. It's been here a while now actually, it's doing alright, Carter's Green DIY. And there is the frontage of Britannia Carpets. We just showed you the rear of the business. We've got, looks like a kebab shop here, and that looks like an employment agency. Halal meat there, and there's a business there which shut us down, that's all closed up. There's a beauty studio, there's two barbers ahead of me, cuts and fades, and the craft bakery, which is very popular. Again, if you look over here, we've got a off license, but it's also, again, it's another one of these convenience stores. There's so many convenience stores, and this is an international food and drinks. I'm thinking it's a Polish store, could be Eastern European. Through up here now, we've got, it's the Christ Apostolic Church, but that was up there used to be the Territorial Army. It was there for many years. All these letterboxes, here. And we've got a better view of what's over there. Of course, it was there now where they've created this kind of boulevard feel, where they've extended the pavements towards me. But that was introduced as a kind of traffic calming measure. But where the pedestrians are, you can see it over there walking. But the pavement, that was where the pavement originally was. And where all this boulevard recently been constructed, that was the road. And when you get off the bus, just there where the Christmas tree is, so if you got off the 74 here in Carter's Green, when you got off the bus there was at least 3 butchers just over there, I remember. Walter's Walter Belcher, I think, was one. Was the Marshall Baxter's was another one, with our awnings. And yeah, there was just 3 butchers almost in a row along here. And I mentioned this in another previous video, but you can see the beauty studio, and you can see 2 roundels on the wall. But that was the original Firkins. Mary Firkins set up her bakery store here, and they would use all this was where they used to bake their bakeries, where they would bake all the confectionery. But originally they were pork butchers, and they were pork pie specialists, and there were lots of prizes for their pork pies. And obviously later on they would run lots of prizes for all their confectionery. Much later, the bakery part, where they used to make all the cakes and such like, and the confectionery, moved to Black Lake, where I did another video of that, because the factory is still standing. Well, obviously from around 2015, when it all closed up for good. And not only we had our butchers here, but also where this Western Union building here is, another convenience store, of course. That was, I remember it as Fine Fare. This was a drive-in chemist who used to drive in and pick up your prescription here. But of course, obviously many of us know what used to be here, and that was the mighty tower, the Tower Cinema. The Tower Cinema opened in 1935, and its first major film showing was The 39 Steps, featuring Madeleine Carroll, a locally born Hollywood actress. The tower closed in 1968. It became the ABC. Not long after it was named the tower, it became the ABC. And in the 50s they introduced the ABC Miners Club for all youngsters who were interested in going to the cinema on a Saturday morning. And there is the pepper pot. I don't know, it's about 60 feet high. Here is the YMCA building, much expanded over the years. And there, over yonder, you can see the Carter's Green post office, and yet another one of these beauty salons. It was around here they used to stand the old Wesleyan chapel, just here. It was built around about the 1840s. And before then, there used to stand a pub called the Junction here, and then this rather large building stood here, this Methodist church, but it closed to congregations in 1949, and then it was used mainly as storage until it was demolished in 1970. All along here, just ahead where this old car showroom used to stand, I think it was Peugeot, wasn't it? I believe. But then there used to be something called the British Restaurant here. It was an old drill hall would stand somewhere around there, and it turned into a British restaurant, and then it was turned into the Clock Tower restaurant. Next to it was Pawson's, a large general store that sold practically anything would stand here, Pawson's. A bit further along you'd have motor coaches. I think it was called Hills Motor Coaches, and next to that, where the island is, and you can see one of the Union flags flying on the lamppost just there, there would have been a pub there called the Inkerman Cottage. Of course, all long gone now. I'll take you along here. This is Dudley Street, but here stands the St Andrew's Church, Carter's Green, built around the 1920s. That's and it served the congregations of the Swan Village Methodists, and also it served the congregations of Christ Church in the High Street when that burned down in the 70s. And just here to my right now, no sign of it now because the centre has all been dropped to make the subway to get under the road and the island. But there was once stood Carter's Green passage that would go through there to reach a well, it would join Old Meeting Street, of course, as Old Meeting Street would be just ahead of me over there, but it would join Old Meeting Street, and there used to be a factory down there, a pattern works it was called, just around here somewhere would be another pub called the Nag's Head. And this is where we finish, here at this milestone here. And the milestone would signify how many miles it was to London from here, which would have been 114 miles, but nothing can be read on this iron plate now. All you can see is the word TO, 2. That's all you can make out on there now. Well, many people will comment that Carter's Green ain't what it used to be, and of course nowhere is what it used to be, but many people would suggest that it is worse than what it used to be, because of course, you know, many people remember Carter's Green, and I remember Carter's Green as well from the 1970s, but many people can go back even further than that. But in those days, of course, Carter's Green was a very thriving retail area. There was lots of different varieties of shops in Carter's Green, but now it's rather an alien environment now, when we've got all these Turkish barbers and nail bars and vape shops. You know, these are the sort of stores that have proliferated the area now, and those seem to be the only shops I think tend to be surviving as well, together with all these convenience stores and takeaways. But sadly, of course, Carter's Green, for what it once was, with all its many pubs, clubs and varieties of shops and bingo, and which came after when it was a cinema, and you know, look what it used to have. It was an extraordinarily buzzing place, was Carter's Green. But you can't really say that now. It's still a very busy area because a lot of the cars are coming through off the high street. But I'm just trying to think of what would you come to Carter's Green for these days. I just want to add as well that just behind me, just see if you can see behind me here, where all this car showroom used to be. Now that recently they've been doing some work on it, and they had a fireworks shop just there, and all the rest of it has been work taking place on the outside and the inside of the building, in readiness to open yet another convenience store, a bit larger scale. It's like, if you like, a mini supermarket. But that doesn't seem to be taking place at the moment. It's been like that for a good few years now. But wouldn't it be brilliant if instead of having yet another food outlet, why not create some kind of entertainment place over there, such as a bowling alley of some sort? You know, I think people would love that. There's plenty of car parking around there. We've just been down John Street, loads of parking down there, loads of parking around this building as well. Would be great, some kind of bowling alley. I think the site's big enough for some kind of entertainment centre there, but it's never going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen. Anyway, we'll leave it to that, and if you like the video, hit the like button, and also hit subscribe and hit the notification bell for new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.